Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep today.
We're exploring a fascinating story today where the author, Fanny, takes us through her journey through Honduras.
A lot of you have been really interested in how seeing a totally different way of life can change your whole perspective.
Right. And Fanny's experiences offer such a powerful, almost visceral example of that. It's particularly interesting because she'd never even encountered a gun before going there.
Yeah, that's a wild thought, isn't it? Like, that's such a common thing for so many people, and she'd never seen one.
Yeah, I think that really sets the stage for how different things were about to become for her.
Totally. She talks about this moment, crossing a river and feeling this instant shift, like walking into a different world.
I remember that part.
On one side, these really affluent, gated communities, like picture it, fancy houses, alarms everywhere, private security.
Yeah, very much the picture of affluence and security. And then literally just across the river, a completely different reality.
Yeah, it's really stark.
Makeshift shelters built from whatever they could find, kids playing in a polluted river.
It's hard hitting, that image. And it really throws into sharp relief the intense economic disparities that, sadly, are all too common.
It makes you think about the things we usually don't even see.
Exactly. The privilege that can be so invisible when it's your norm. And for Fanny, experiencing that absence was clearly eye-opening.
And it really fueled her sense of gratitude. Imagine never having encountered gun violence, never knowing real hunger, or not having a safe place to sleep. It's a massive reset on how you view your own life.
It's true. She makes this really insightful point, though, about how everyone's struggles are valid no matter what others are going through.
Right, like it's not a competition.
Exactly. But at the same time, she talks about how much she began to appreciate the abundance in her own life. The little things, even running water, food in the fridge, clothes to choose from, being able to travel.
Things that so many of us take for granted, right?
Absolutely. Right. And that's a question worth pondering for all of us listening. What are we taking for granted in our own lives?
Yeah.
Where's our baseline of gratitude at?
I think that's a great takeaway right there. And Fanny also really emphasizes how important it is to experience different ways of life. It's easy to have a very limited view of the world if you've never been outside your bubble.
Totally.
There's this quote from the book that really stuck with me. The more I see, the more I'm convinced that I know absolutely nothing.
Wow.
That's powerful.
It is. And, it ties in perfectly with what our listeners are always looking for.
Yeah.
Diverse perspectives.
For sure. Okay, I've got to bring up the story about the radio interview in San Pedro Sula.
Oh, yeah?
She's being interviewed, and the host introduces her as someone who's traveled to the, quote, murder capital of Central America.
Intense.
Her family back home was understandably freaking out, but her reaction is interesting. She says she purposely didn't research her destinations beforehand.
It really shows how much she valued having a truly authentic experience. Unfiltered. It's like the potential risk for her was outweighed by the chance to encounter things without any preconceived notions.
It makes you think about how much we let fear dictate our experiences sometimes.
Absolutely.
And that whole idea of avoiding preconceived notions feeds into this bigger point she makes about not putting things or people into boxes.
Right.
She uses this analogy about someone being rude once doesn't mean they're a jerk all the time. Simple, but it makes you think, Like, yeah. San Pedro Sula obviously has more to offer than just that scary label.
Right. It's about acknowledging that everything has layers. And I think this ties into a larger issue about how dangerous generalizations can be, whether it's a city, a country, a group of people. We lose so much when we reduce things to a single characteristic.
Yeah. Fanny also talks about how negative news tends to drown out the positive stuff.
Yeah.
Like with hitchhiking, you hear about the one bad incident, but not the thousands of times it goes perfectly fine.
It's a good reminder that we have a choice in what we focus on.
Exactly. And she really chose to emphasize those positive experiences, the joys of the many, instead of the fear of the few.
I like that. That's a really powerful way to put it. And, it speaks to her whole philosophy about confidence, too. She really believed that fear attracts trouble and that projecting confidence keeps you safer.
She mentions testing that theory out, and it seemed to hold true for her. That's pretty bold, though.
It is. But there's something to be said for that self-assured energy, It can definitely affect how people interact with you. It's like a feedback loop almost.
It's interesting, that connection between your inner state and how things play out in the real world.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all just facing these tough realities in San Pedro Sula. She talks about this amazing hospitality she experienced from Laura and her friend's family.
Right.
They welcomed her in, cooked for her, showed her around, even took her to the beach. She talks about feeling truly at home in a place she initially perceived as dangerous.
That's so heartwarming. It just goes
Yeah.
to show you, you can find kindness anywhere.
Yeah, it's a good reminder not to judge a book by its cover or a city by its stats.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about Copan Ruinas. That trip to the ancient Mayan ruins was a big deal for her.
Definitely. And she really emphasizes how few Western tourists were there.
Yeah.
It sounds like it created this incredible atmosphere of peace and reflection.
It allowed her to connect with the history and the energy of the place on a much deeper level. And there was this moment, she describes it as an impulse to meditate.
And she hadn't really done much meditation before, right?
Yeah, it was like this brand new thing for her.
It's amazing.
She talks about sitting there among those ancient ruins, closing her eyes, and feeling this incredible sense of peace, like a complete stillness she'd never experienced before. And there's this photograph Laura took of her in that moment, which became really significant for her. It was like the true beginning of her journey with meditation.
It's incredible how sometimes stepping out of your routine and into something totally new can lead to such profound personal discoveries.
And that sense of stillness, that historical weight of the ruins, it all just came together so perfectly.
Powerful stuff.
And looking ahead, we know she's about to volunteer on an organic farm. There's this sense of anticipation, like she knows more shifts are coming as she dives into this totally different experience.
It seems like the takeaway there is the power of really seeing and understanding people who live outside your normal world.
It's about recognizing that there are so many ways to be, and that can lead to so much more empathy and acceptance.
It's true.
So wrapping things up, we've seen how Fanny's experiences in Honduras, these stark contrasts, really ignited a lasting sense of gratitude in her. We've talked about how limiting it can be to hold on to preconceived notions and how important it is to seek out authentic experiences.
It's about breaking free from those boxes we put things in.
Absolutely. And we've also seen the incredible impact of simply opening yourself up to different realities, the good and the bad, and how that can lead to some pretty profound transformations.
It's all about stepping outside of your comfort zone and really engaging with the world in an open and honest way.
So on that note, I want to leave you with this. Think about a time in your own life when an unexpected encounter or experience completely changed your perspective. How did it shift your understanding of the world or your place in it? And maybe even more importantly, where in your own thinking are you placing those boxes, limiting your own capacity for connection? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.